The most superficial level of knowledge is tactics. Below that is strategies. So this is the broad, more nuanced way of understanding how the actual tactics play out. So that if the tactics are like, how do I go about the conversation? The strategies are an overall way of thinking about the conversation. And then below that, the fundamental pillar for all understanding is principles. The principles are what frame all strategy, and the strategies are what frame the tactics. So if we only focus on tactics, then we miss out on what makes those tactics successful. And when you have to cater the tactics to specific types of people or specific markets, they inevitably fall through. What I will be talking through is the strategies, principles, and tactics of being a seven-figure real estate agent. So just for context, a little bit about me. My name is Aaron. I am the Vice President of Sales here at Muscula. I've been working in the real estate marketing industry for years now, not only in this company, but other companies as well. I've spoken to thousands of people. I've converted hundreds, if not thousands of leads at this point. And so I've been able to boil it down into a pretty simple process that applies really in all arenas, but very well in the real estate arena. And the reason why is because it is based not on tactics, but rather on the principles of human psychology and behavior. How do people make decisions? So when you get on the phone with a lead, how do they make decisions on whether or not to move forward with you? So that's what we'll be going over today. Once we understand these mindsets and principles, then we can actually apply it to actual tactics on how to convert as many people as possible that you guys get on the phone of. So are you guys ready to rock and roll and dive in? You guys are gonna need a pen and paper. So this will be a note-taking session. You guys ready?
Oh,
Let's freaking go. So I'm gonna kick this off with something that's very important to understand before we really dive deep into it, which is the three levels of knowledge, the three levels of understanding anything. Melissa, great to see you. Those three levels are as follows. The most superficial level of understanding is tactic, right? What are your guys' thoughts on like tactic? What do you think of when you think tactics?
I think touch points, right? Whether that's a
Touch points.
call, text, yeah, emails, calls.
Okay.
Yeah, same.
Solid, yeah.
Ways of
So like
engagement.
actionable touch points. What else?
I will say ways of engagement.
Ways of engagement, solid. So like how you actually go about the conversation. What else? The specific actions, 100% would be yes. So the most superficial level of knowledge, Jennifer, great to see you. I actually onboarded Jennifer in the program. She lives like 15 minutes down the road from me. So we got some snow last night, which was beautiful, our first snow of the season. So the most superficial level of knowledge is tactics. Below that is strategies, right? So this is the broad, more nuanced way of understanding how the actual tactics play out. So that if the tactics are like, how do I go about the conversation? The strategies are an overall way of thinking about the conversation. Is this clicking? Is this vibing with everyone? Nod your head yes if it's a yes. No if you think I'm completely insane. Solid. And then below that, the fundamental pillar for all understanding is principles. The principles are what frame all strategy, and the strategies are what frame the tactics. So if we only focus on tactics, then we miss out on what makes those tactics successful. And when you have to cater the tactics to specific types of people or specific markets, they inevitably fall through. And so what we're going to go through today is we're going to start at the foundation. We're going to start at the principles that make up all of the strategies and tactics, and then we'll work our way up until we get really fine-tuned. These are specific things that you can say and do when you're speaking to a home seller. You guys ready to dive in? Let's freaking go. Cool. So first things first on principles, there are so many different principles that we can talk through. I'm going to share a few of them with you. We won't really have time to go too deep into all of them, but there are a few that I think are very important to understand. The first one of these principles is that human beings psychologically are afraid of commitment. Write this down. Human beings are afraid of commitment, which means that they will avoid commitment if they can, right? There is an inherent sense of, this like goes down to like the very fibers of human psychology behavior. that if they feel like they will be tied down into something that they do not fully understand yet, because there's a fear of the unknown, which is one of the strongest fears in human psychology, if they feel like they're tied down into something that has a lot of unknown, then they will want to avoid it. So how many of you guys here, when you were onboarded onto Muscula, hopped onto the call and you were skeptical? Raise your hand. If someone had just hopped onto the call, the sales rep you spoke to, they hopped onto the call and they were like, all right, guys, the program is $10,000. Sign up right now. How many here would have just said, yeah, sure, let's do it? Raise your hand. No hands raised, right? It's because you are also human. When you do not understand what the commitment entails, you do not want to make the commitment. Wouldn't you know it? The people that you speak to are the exact same way. So what we'll do today is we'll go into strategies and tactics of how to understand that fear of commitment and actually work it out in our favor so that they can make an optimal decision that's best for them. Is this making sense? Are you guys vibing? Head nods if yes. Shake your head if you think I'm absolutely insane. All right. I'm not getting a lot of head nods from Caesar, Jennifer, and Susan. Have I lost you guys? We still vibing? Okay, Caesar's kind of going around in a circle. What are your questions, brother?
Where am I? Mute.
He's like, no, I'm quiet. I won't say anything. Oh, well, guys, you guys are going to very quickly learn that I love having conversations. So if I call on you,
Aaron,
it's
I'm
because
sorry,
I
Aaron.
love you and I hear from you.
Caesar was actually unmute and then he muted himself and he was
Oh,
talking.
he did. Oh, well, Caesar,
Yeah.
let's go, man. I want to hear your thoughts.
Am I talking now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hear
Yes.
me? No, I had to. Sorry, same thought. It was. I'm just listening. I'm absorbing. I'm waiting to get the meat and potatoes, and then I'll chime in.
Okay, cool. Solid.
Caesar will bring up his questions, and they're usually really good, or comments too.
I love that. I love that. Fantastic. I'm looking forward to hearing them. So that's the first principle, is that people are afraid of commitment. The second principle is that trust is earned. It is not given. Trust is earned, not given. So when you guys hop on a call with a potential home seller, do they trust you immediately right off the bat? Yes or no? No. It's because of this core principle. Trust is earned. It is not handed out willy-nilly. So you cannot expect the people you talk to immediately trust you. That is something you must earn. Today, we'll talk about how you earn that. And then finally, people avoid and ignore pain. If there are problems and they hurt, the easiest thing to do, because human beings want to go into comfort, right? We have to train ourselves to not do that. When you are a high performer, it's because you have trained up mental fortitude that goes against your core human nature. You've created a new comfort zone for yourself. When each of you guys hopped into this offer, was it comfortable when you signed the dotted line? Raise your hand if it was super comfortable. No one's raising their hand. Of course not, right? There is always an element of discomfort when we step into something that's new. But when you do that, you expand your comfort zone, right? The thing is, the people that you're speaking to want to stay within comfort. Outside of that is discomfort and pain. And the easiest thing they can do is avoid it and ignore it. So we'll talk about how does that actually apply to a sales transaction here in just a second. But those are the three key principles that I want to talk about. And I'll throw out a bonus principle for you guys. So write this down, a little asterisk next to it, bonus principle, because it ties into all of these three. Sales is leadership. I want to hear from some of our amazing realtors on this call. When you guys think of leadership, what do you guys think of? What is a leader?
Someone who provides direction and vision.
Love that. Someone who provides direction and vision. Who else?
Someone who helps move the conversation forward, right? A lot of times we need to bring clarity.
I love that. Yeah, someone who brings clarity and moves the conversation forward.
Someone that can be trusted.
Someone that can be trusted. Oh, I love that. Tying it straight into the principles, man. Let's go. Someone who can be trusted, right? So sales is leadership. You'll see this come into play as we move here into the strategies. So let's start diving deeper, right? What are the actual strategies that we can use in our conversations with home sellers to convert more of them than not? First things first, let's circle back around. People are afraid of commitment. I talked about this a little bit last week. Raise your hand if you were on the call last week. I recognize some faces here. Karen was on the call last week, indeed. Caesar, were you on the call last week with me? Solid. So this may be a new idea for some of you guys. With people being afraid of commitment, do not ask to get married on the first date, right? So I used this analogy last week. I did not score my smoking hot babe of a wife by asking her to marry me on the first date. I did not. I started by becoming friends, being interesting, flirting, asking her out on a date. And then on that date, getting to know her, building up a relationship with her until eventually we got to the point where we walked down the aisle. And so now we see that the people that you speak to, if you ask them off the bat, cool, you ready to sell? Hey, you want to go ahead and work together and sell your house? You're asking for a sense of commitment. Even if they are ready to sell their house, they will not say yes. I asked this on last week's call. Raise your hand, and if you have your cameras off, you can do a little hand raise thing on Zoom. If you've ever spoken to someone who, when you asked them if they wanted to sell their house, they said, oh, I'm not looking to sell for another 12 months. And then you find their house on the market 2 months later. Raise your hand if you've ever had that happen, right? Got a few people here that have had that happen. Sucks, doesn't it? And the reason why is because when you ask them for that commitment, we need to understand that their base psychological response is to avoid it, right? And so we'll go into specific tactics, but we need to understand that in your first conversation with them, we need to be focused on building trust. We need to be focused on providing value. And we'll go more into like what that looks like here in a moment. But when you provide value in the first conversation, you become the realtor that they sign with and put their house on market 2 months in rather than 12 months out. The other realtors they would have spoken to, they said, oh, no, I'm not looking to sell. I'll sell in a year. They will be the ones who are shocked when they see the house on the market. Is this vibing? You guys want to be the realtors who gets these houses on the market within 2 months? A lot of nods. Yes? Let's freaking go. Cool. Second strategy, and this ties into the principle of trust is earned, not given. Oh, this is going to blow y'all's minds. Be trustworthy. Trust is earned. It is not given. If you are not a trustworthy person, do not expect people to trust you. So I train sales reps for a living, right? I train people on how to help other people work through mindsets that limit them. It is not an easy role, right? One of the things that I work on, I very rarely talk about say this in your sales conversations. What I talk about is who are you as a person? Do you deserve a real estate agent's trust? So if you live a life of low integrity, you break your promises to other people, you break your promises with yourself. No one thought we were going to a therapy session here. You never know what you're going to get with me, right? When you break your promises with yourself, with others, when you are not trustworthy in your own life, do not be surprised when people do not trust you. You reap what you sow. However, if you sow integrity, you reap trustworthiness, and you make more money. It's crazy how that works. So we'll go into some tactics here in just a moment of how do we actually take a look at our life and become trustworthy people in as short of a time period as possible. Because every single person on this call, no matter how trustworthy you think you are, when you go through this exercise I'm going to share with you here in a few minutes, you're going to be like, holy shit, what was I doing with my life this whole time? And you will notice that you will immediately start to reap more money in your life. It's really freaking cool, right? The third strategy, tying into the principle of people avoid and ignore pain, is that you need to help bring that to the surface in the conversation. They must face the reality of their situation. So if you want them to make a decision to run away from pain, you cannot have them ignoring it, right? You have to bring it up. If they recognize that there are things in their life that they're not happy with, say, for example, in terms of selling a house, they want to sell for a reason, right? They want to sell because they have some desire of where they want to go, a better life for themselves and their family, whatever their reasoning is. The idea of not getting that dream feels like loss, and loss is pain, and people want to run from it. And so when you first speak to them, they're going through their life by saying, oh, I'll take care of it later. What they're doing is they're shelving the pain. They're ignoring it, but it's still there. There's an idea of they want to get to a better life for themselves. So in your conversation, maybe not the immediate first one, but maybe when you're doing the in-person appointment, maybe when you're giving the listing presentation, when you're building up that relationship with them, if you help them see that, hey, not having this life is costing you X, Y, and Z, right? What has it been like to stay in this position and want to get to a different place? And we'll start talking about tactics here in a sec. I tend to get ahead of myself. When we start talking through these things, we bring that pain off of the shelf and hold it in front of them. You're not making stuff up. You're not having weird emotional conversations that don't have any place. You're just having a human conversation. You're addressing the facts of why they want to move. But when you bring that up and you actually hold it in front of them, now they have to stand face to face with what's motivating them in the first place to sell. And because humans run from pain, what will they want to do? Well, they're going to want to sell their home and move into the new place. Is this making sense?
Yep.
Is this clicking? Cool. What are your guys' thoughts on the strategies behind all of this?
Repeat the question now. Sorry.
Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Like, what's the biggest thing that you've pulled from this training so far that's different from maybe what you thought originally? It's all because it gave me a chance to drink some water.
I don't think I've thought anything different. I sort of agree with what you're saying. I believe that like my strategy is always to go ask the questions as to what's the why. Why do they want to sell? And then I try to focus on that and then bring them back around to get them to that other place. Exactly, what you're saying. It's you're kind of going over what my thought process is, so it's helpful.
Yeah, 100%. And I actually have a thought I want to add on to that, but I want to give everyone else a chance. What are maybe some of the thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, or death threats that you guys have on this topic so far?
Yeah, I just got off a call with a customer who was doing what you just mentioned, right? Fear of commitment. At the time when I was asking for a time for an appointment, initially she said yes. And all of a sudden she says that, I have a realtor, so it will be a waste of your time. And I said, that's fine. Let me meet you and you see who brings you better value between me and the person you already know. And you can then decide. And she was then okay to meet me. So I agree with you, what you just mentioned. Yeah.
That's huge. Do you know why what you did worked so well? Many reasons why it worked so well. But have you thought about it's not just the value that you're providing, it's that meeting with you now becomes one, non-committal, right?
Mhm.
But two, you're providing them with more benefit than the cost. The cost for them is, yeah, it's $0 financially for them to meet with you, but they have to set aside time to meet with you. So this is a psychology thing. I actually teach this to my sales team. You guys have all had a conversation with at least one member of my sales team that I trained. That is why you are all sitting here today. Most of you guys had a phone call with someone before you sat down on a Zoom with someone else. And so what happens is on that phone call, the purpose of the sales rep's job in that conversation is to simply set up an appointment. Now, all of you guys, did you guys have to pay money simply to show up to the Zoom call with the sales rep? No, the Zoom call was free, right? Except you paid with your time. And so what happens a lot of times is when we ask to have a meeting, there is an inherent cost of I have to give up time to meet with this realtor, right? And so the home seller doesn't want to pay that cost unless there's enough value with meeting with you that makes up for the cost. And so Habib, the value that you provided them is I could potentially get you a better home evaluation, right? Or a better quote on commission or whatever it is than what that other realtor could give you. You want to make an informed decision, I can give you that information. All it costs is 30 minutes, 45 minutes of your time, right? And so the value of what you're giving has to be higher than the cost. You all joined the program because the value of what you thought you were receiving was higher than the cost you thought you had to pay, right? Everyone buys bargains, whether the cost is in money or time. And so in the case of actually having the phone call and setting the in-person appointment, the goal on that call is to show that that meeting, even though it costs 45 minutes of your time, will contain so much value that you would have wished you would spend 5 hours because it's just so much value packed into it. Then they will always say, yes, I want to meet with you. Is this making sense? Is vibing? Death threats? Any death threats yet? No? Cool. We'll save that for, I tend to create death threats the more I speak. So we'll see if they come up later. Let's get to the good stuff. You guys ready for some tactics? How this actually plays out on a tactical level, right? So the tactics mean nothing if we don't understand the principles and strategies. right? So Oliver is going to need to go back and he's going to need to watch the recording of this call to understand the principles and strategies, or some of you guys will actually need to share it with him. But now we're getting into the real meat and potatoes. How do we play this out on a tactical level? So let's start back with the first principle we went over. What was the first principle we talked about on today's call? Anyone who has not spoken, I want to hear from you. So Susan, Yelena, Melissa, Harris, Lath, Stephanie, Javier. I want to hear from some of you guys. What was the first principle?
Human beings are afraid of commitment, which means they will avoid commitment if they can.
Exactly. Perfect. So then this ties into the first tactic, which look at that. I got ahead of myself. The first tactic that ties into that principle is to lead with value, not asks for commitment. Provide the thing that gives them value first before you ask for the commitment. Each of you guys hopped into this. And the reason why I keep talking about hopping into this program is because it works, because this stuff worked with you. You wouldn't be here if these principles were false, right? So when you guys had your conversation, you received value before you guys made the commitment. The value was insight, understanding, knowing a new way of doing things. Some of you guys went through fundamental identity and mindset shifts, right? Jennifer, can I chat a little bit about our conversation, or do you want to keep that between us?
Sure, go ahead.
So Jennifer, I love Jennifer here, right? And Jennifer is a perfect example of a realtor who is going to freaking skyrocket. When I had the conversation with her, she was fairly new in the space, right? She had just left her healthcare profession with her stable, steady paycheck to jump into the abyss that is being a real estate agent, right? So many unknowns, but she knew by making that choice that she was capable of more than other people said she was. Now, when we had our conversations, even though she knew that, the idea of jumping into a new program and doing something different was terrifying for Jennifer, right? Jennifer, was it an easy move for you? Was it comfortable for you to make the jump?
No, my career in healthcare has made me a bit more analytical than my nature truly is.
When we had our conversation, the way I framed it with Jennifer is you have two Jennifers who are fighting for the driver's seat of your life. You have the afraid Jennifer, the Jennifer who doesn't want to make commitment, the Jennifer who is afraid of the unknown, the Jennifer who wants to stay in what is comfortable. That's okay if that's the person you want in the driver's seat, right? There are many people around us who have that person in the driver's seat. There's no shame or judgment. That is their choice. But then there's this other Jennifer that I got a sense of during our conversation. We called her cheerleader Jen, because she believes in Jennifer's potential. She knows that Jennifer wasn't at her potential yet. Jennifer had been trying. She had people who were giving her advice from all different directions, but none of them were actually yielding major results in her business. But she knew what she was capable of, and no fear of the unknown was going to hold her back. With the shift that happened in our little phone call was that cheerleader Jen stepped into the driver's seat and fearful Jen got kicked into the trunk, tied up, blindfolded, trunk shut, right? Cheerleader Jen stepped in the driver's seat. She took on a new identity of who she truly is in order to take this leap. And that is why I'm very proud of Jennifer. So shout out to Jennifer. You're absolutely amazing. You're going to crush it, right? Each of you guys may have gone through a very similar process, not only just joining this program, but at some point in your life, someone saw what you were capable of and they empowered you. Has anybody had in their life, you don't have to share the story, but raise your hand if you've had someone in your life that saw what you were capable of and actually called that out, right? That's who you are to these people, these home sellers. You empower them to not stay in their phase of commitment. You call out the best in them. You provide value first. You don't ask for the sale. You don't ask for the, hey, book an appointment with me right at the start of the phone call. You're providing value. You're giving them things that they want, all free value. It's like, hey, in your area, this would be an example. In your area, this is one of the things that I've noticed. These are things that help sellers sell their home quickly, right? Or, hey, have you thought about doing this instead? Or, hey, I hear from your conversation that you're afraid to sell because this is your childhood home or whatever. At the same time, I also hear that you feel like you're capable of more, right? And we have a whole conversation about like, which version are you? Then you go into, If you want, I can give you more of what you just got if we have a few minute conversation in person. And I would be happy to provide you with a full estimate on what your home is worth, give you free tips and tricks, whether or not you move forward with me. That's out of the picture, right? We can talk about that if you want to do that there, but I'm just here to serve, give value. Don't ask for the commitment. When they get to a point where they feel like they owe you for all the value you've given them, that's when you ask for the commitment. Is this making sense? Vibing? Cool. Solid. Your CSMs on this call have tons of experience in this. They have helped hundreds of realtors just like you scale their business. If you want to get deeper into some of this stuff, reach out to Victor, reach out to Emmanuel, reach out to whoever is your CSM and ask them these questions. And they'll be able to go a lot deeper into it. Second tactic. All right. Someone else I haven't heard from, right? I'm going to call you guys out if someone doesn't step up. Second tactic. What is the second principle we talked about? Don't all go at once. I'll call on someone. Susan, what was the second principle we talked about? I love your smile, Susan.
Trust is earned, not given. Is that what you mean?
Yep, 100%. That's it. Yep, you got it. Correct answer. Trust is earned. Trust is not given willy-nilly. It is earned. So now let's talk about how do we become trustworthy people. Now, raise your hand if you think you're a trustworthy person. Cool. Your mind is about to be blown because I'm going to give you an exercise that will help you see that there are areas in your life where you most likely are not trustworthy. If you have had anyone tell you, I do not trust you, it is because you have not earned their trust. Bottom line. That's the hard truth, right? So let's look at this. This is the same activity I give to every person I hire, and I train them on this. Audit your life, right? When we look at our life, in the past 2 weeks, what are all of the things that we said we would do that we have not yet done? And I mean, get really granular, because if all of us were honest, every single person in this meeting, even the ones who raised their hands, probably especially the ones who raised their hands, if you look at it, there are things where you have made a commitment to yourself or to another person and you have not yet followed through. So for example, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow at this time. Even if you go to the gym, but you're 10 minutes late, you have broken a commitment. Or I'm going to call this person at this time. If you are 1 minute late, you've broken the commitment. Now, this is the harder truth, right? This is the stuff that feels uncomfortable. This is where the death threats I'm expecting to start rolling in. So if you got them, just drop them in the chat. I'm used to it, right? Trust is earned. It is not given. So if anyone that you've spoken to has not trusted you, it's because you've not earned the trust, and you only ever reap what you sow. Is there anyone who disagrees with the concept of you get back what you put out? I'm not getting people chomping at the bit to tell me that I'm wrong here. So we're going to assume and work off of the assumption then that you only get back what you put out in life. When you put out breaches in trust, you get breaches in trust back. So there's, we could go really deep into this. I could go do like a full 2-hour training. You guys are probably sick of hearing me talk. I could do a full 2-hour training on this very thing. But here's the exercise I have for you all. And you have 48 hours to do it. On your sheet of paper, I want you to write down, what are all of the promises that I have not yet kept? Keyword is yet, right? Because delayed fulfillment of a promise is still breaking a promise. What are all the promises I have not yet kept? And list them out. Take an audit of your life. Then all of these things that you list, that's what's causing people not to trust you. There's an energy in your conversations. And you know, when you speak to some people, you're just full of integrity. They're sound, they're solid, right? They're trustworthy. What they say will come true every single time. Has anybody spoken to people that you could just feel it in their presence? Just me? Karen, too.
This moment right now. Go ahead, Aaron. Give it to
Appreciate you, dog. Still have a lot of things I got to clear out in my own life, right? That affect that trust. But this is the reason why I've had success in sales. Not because of the word tracks I learned. It's not because of how I handled the phone call. It's not because of all the salesy stuff. It's not because of what the gurus out there want to teach you. When you look up like, how do I close a deal, right? Or how do I get an appointment set? It's not all the word tracks. Those are all helpful. It's who you are as a human being. Do you deserve the trust that you're asking for? And working on this is the thing that has allowed me to get to this point in my career. And it's the thing that will propel me further because I have created a soundness within myself that when I speak to a real estate agent, there's a weight to what I say. If I say something, I freaking mean it. It will happen every time. So people can feel that, so they trust me. It's the same thing with you. This, more important than anything else we've discussed, this will change your life. This will be the thing that takes you far. So audit your life, look at all the promises we have not yet kept, and then recognize that's what that's the weeds in our garden of trust, right? Those weeds. Uproot all of those things that steal your trustworthiness, and you will recognize very quickly, I'm talking within a week, there will be a certain new weight to your conversations. If there isn't, go back to the audit, do it again. Is this making sense? Cool. There's another piece of this trust thing, but before I go into that, I want to open up the floor for some questions on this, because now I'm getting kind of the woo stuff, right? But what are your guys' thoughts, death threats on this so far?
Yeah, did you get my death threat yet? I sent it out. I don't know if you received it.
Oh, did you drop it in the chat?
No, I
missed
sent it to you. It's gonna fall on your head in about a second, but it's
Oh,
okay.
it is? I have to
I'm
look
from
out
New
for it.
York. We get these things done. I mean, okay. So just a comment on everything you're saying and something that hit me over the head. This was amazing, by the way, what you just said regarding trust and auditing your everything. I can, like in 2 seconds, I can say, oh shit, all of these things that I haven't kept up with for myself. But you said something that's just hitting me because I'm in the middle of a listing, and you said everybody buys bargains, and it's like for me, it's such a big deal to be able to talk to, because now I can talk to this person and it's okay. What's the bargain that she's looking for? Because both agents are charging the same, both agents are promising the same, but what is my bargain? Oh, anyway, that just hit me over the head, and I think that you helped me to clarify something for me to do a listing presentation, and that's great. I thank you for that. And then what you just said now is amazing.
I'm glad to hear that, man. And building on that very same idea, I don't say this, if this offends anyone, I do apologize. No, I don't. I stand behind what I'm saying. If it offends you, cool. But I do not usually recommend being the discount broker, being the one who does it for 1%, right? The reason why is because you are trying to artificially create a bargain by lowering what you charge, right? And you can only ever go down to zero. There is a floor, right? You can't go lower than working for free. And so you can only go so low in what you charge for your services. So if you want to be the discount broker, if you want to create a real bargain for people that will make them want to move forward with you, focus on how do you add more value, right? How do you create so much value that someone would be willing to pay you freaking 10% for their house? And then you take 3.
And I just want to, I don't know if it was misconstrued what I said. I am not a discount broker, and I will
Oh,
never.
no, I don't think
But
that at
I'm
all.
just, no, but I'm just saying, I completely agree with what you're saying. The value is in the bargain of what we're giving to the person, not so much I'm working for less. I'm going to work for more because I'm giving you more value.
You're
And
giving more,
gonna be happy
100%.
when I'm done with you. That's the
Caesar, you and I are on the exact same page, dog. Like, I fully agree with you. But this is something is like you reminded me of this point, and again, I chase rabbits. So here's one of the rabbits, right? If you are charging less than even 2.5, right? If you're charging less than 2.5%, I challenge you. Ask yourself, even use ChatGPT if you need to, right? Find ways that you can provide more value for people to the point where they would be happy to pay you 10% of their house price. 2.5 feels like a steal at that point. Is this resonating? There's a bonus tip for you guys. You guys like that? Cool. And sticking back on the trust thing, and I do want to create some space for some more questions, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. In terms of building trust, be an authentic version of you in all of your meetings, right? Stephanie, be Stephanie. Elena, be Elena. Laith, Susan, Caesar, Jennifer, Javier, all of you guys that are on this meeting right now, Harris, Oliver, Bob, Melissa, be 110% you. If you like cracking dad jokes, crack the damn rip, right? If you're a very caring and compassionate person, let that show. If you're blunt and direct and you just tell it like it is in the meetings, let go of the fear of offending people on your first meeting. Just be who you are. You will attract those who work the best with you if you have full comfort and security in who you are as a human being. Now, this isn't something that most people struggle with, right? A lot of people have full comfort and security in themselves. I didn't for the longest time, and it held me back. Talking to prospects, oh boy, it was exhausting because I had to put on a face to be what I thought they wanted me to be. And I thought that would allow me to get more sales, make more money, do what I wanted to do. But then I realized, screw that. The people who do not resonate with me, they're not my people. And that's okay. There are 8 billion people on earth. There are no slim pickings, right? There is an abundance in the harvest. If you can get really comfortable with who you are, you will attract the people you love working with. And what you'll notice is that your conversion rate will increase because those people, you will attract more of those people in the door and you will convert them more often because they see you for who you are. You're not trying to put on a face. Now you create trust. There's a soundness. Who you say you are is who you are. Because there's integrity, because there is a synergy between what you put out and who you actually are, people are more likely to trust you. And when people trust you, they work with you. Are we vibing? Cool. And then finally, with that being said, on the third principle, do you guys remember what the third principle was? Who wants to share the third principle? I'll open the floor for anyone, even if you've spoken before.
I want to talk, but I don't. I wasn't at the call, so I don't know the third principle.
That's awesome. Who can help Javier out?
Yeah,
I'm glad
man.
to have you here, brother. Who can help him out?
Glad to be here.
No? No one remembers the third principle? Karen, do you remember the third principle?
Transparently looking through the chat trying to cheat, man.
It may have gotten lost. I do tend to speak in large balls of information. It's people avoid what?
Oh, commitment, was it?
Commitment, and it starts with a P. Pain.
Oh.
Yes. There we go, Jen. People avoid pain. People avoid and ignore pain. So, tactically speaking, in your meetings and phone calls with them, have them not just tell you what their dream life is, have them picture it. I call it toes in the sand, right? So if someone has a dream vacation, they want to go to Fiji, don't just ask them where they want to go. Get really specific. You want them to imagine that life so clearly that it's like their toes are in the sand in that moment. They feel the warmth in their feet. Now, there's a lot of different ways we can go into like how to do that on a tactical level. I'm running low on time. If you guys want more of this stuff, just let your CSMs know. I'd be happy to come back another day and talk about this thing a little bit more. But what that would look like in an actual home transaction is, where do you want to move? Let's say, for example, they're living in the city, right? And they want to downsize. They want to get a house in the country. And it's been their dream since they were a kid. Now, sure, yes, they could continue putting it off. They could wait for the interest rates to change. They could wait for the market to just drop them their dream reality in their lap and let the market dictate what they do with their lives. Or because you're in the conversation, you're going to help them own their destiny and actually create what they want to have, right? But in order to do that, they have to sit down and actually imagine what it would be like to be sitting on the back porch with their 2 golden retrievers running around in that 3-acre yard with the sun setting, right? Like, put them in that place. What would that be like? How would it feel? How would it be different? Do they feel like they deserve that? Do they feel like after all this time that they've worked, do they feel like they deserve that at this point in their life? Get deep. The deeper you go, the more real it becomes. And the more real it is, the more they will fear losing it. Now, you could use this in a very manipulative, selfish manner. What we're talking about here is like real Jedi mind trick shit. But when you get them to actually imagine it, the fear of losing it becomes a great pain. And because people run from pain, when you bring it to the surface, they will run from pain by just, okay, like I just need to get there. I need to get to where I want to go. I need to get that nice house with the 2-acre property so that I can stop feeling the pain of not having it anymore. When they come face to face with their reality, face to face of how difficult it is living in the city with the constant hustle and bustle of the noise. Or maybe if they're living in the country and they want to move into the city, right? Maybe it's the, man, it's just so boring out here. When they actually come face to face with the reason why they want to move in the first place, the things that they don't like, and how great the other reality is, you're taking the pain that they've been ignoring all this time and you're bringing it face to face with them. All you're doing is you're helping them come face to face with truth, with reality. What you'll notice is they, psychologically, they will do what human beings do. So don't fight against human wiring. Use it for your conversations. Use it to help them make optimal decisions. And we know human beings avoid pain. The reason why they tell you, I don't want to have an appointment with you, is because they've been ignoring the pain of staying where they're at, staying in their current home, staying in their apartment, condo, whatever it is. They're not coming face to face with that pain. They're not coming face to face with the reality of why they want to move. That's why they tell you, I'm going to move in 6 months. I'm going to move in 12 months. I was just thinking about how much my house was worth. I'm not actually serious. It's not because they're not serious. Again, we've all seen those same houses go to market 2 months later. It's because they're ignoring why they even thought about clicking on your ad in the first place. This is why speed to lead is super important, by the way. How many of you guys have had your CSMs hammer you guys about speed to lead? Call your leads like within, couple minutes max. Has anybody had their CSMs talk to them about that? No. I know for a fact that they have, even if you're not admitting it here. I train my sales team to call every lead within 30 seconds. The reason why is because that is 30 seconds from the time they saw your ad, they came face to face with their reality, even for a brief moment. It's like, man, I wonder if I could find out how much my home is worth. Maybe if I sold it, I would get a lot of cash. I could go to this place that I wanted to go. Curious. And they click the ad, they go through the whole application, they do all of that stuff. In that moment, they're already face to face with their reality. If you call them 3 hours later, or worse, 3 days later, they've already forgotten it. They're back in the status quo of their daily life. They're just doing their thing. They're not thinking about it anymore. They're back in their comfort zone, right? So it's up to you to them, show them that reality so that there's the pain of staying where they're at, clearly visible, and human psychology will dictate that they run from it. Is this making sense? Is this clicking? Is it vibing?
Yes, I have a question for you with regard to that because I keep understanding it differently, and you telling me what I like to hear. Say we get like this month, say I've got 30 leads and 4 phone appointments. I've been going on phone appointments, but the other leads, I'm waiting for that phone appointment to come through. Is that the way that you're supposed to do the system, or are you supposed to attack everybody as soon as they come on? Because that's more like what I like to do.
Dude, I am so glad that you asked that. Every lead is an appointment if you make it into one. If you wait for the appointments to show up, then yeah, out of 30 leads, you'll get 4 phone appointments. It's a pretty good conversion rate, right? Most marketing agencies will just give the lead and they'll leave it to that. If you get 30 leads,
that's
though,
been my understanding. So okay, now you just good.
Yeah, if you have the opportunity, if you call all 30 of those leads within 30 to 90 seconds, even if it's like 5 minutes later, like don't worry, like you could still call them afterward, right? Like it doesn't mean don't call them. But if you call all of those leads quickly, you could turn 30 leads into 30 appointments just by picking up the phone and calling them up. Does that make sense?
Yes, and also, how do you turn? I mean, maybe I shouldn't be asking you, but how do you turn off the AI?
I literally have no idea. Yeah, that's definitely an Emmanuel Victor question.
Because I've had a little problem with the AI, but okay, got it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they'll circle back with you and they'll clear that up. I don't know that stuff. Is this clicking? What are your guys' questions and thoughts on that? I finally finished my rant. Was the rant helpful, or should I start receiving death threats right now? All right, we got some thumbs up from Caesar, a light head nod from Susan. I'll roll with it.
Death threats that need to be done to you. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
It's Bob. Look,
Hello, Bob.
I've tried to use the technique you mentioned, just calling people immediately as soon as the lead comes in. That wasn't very only because a lot of people didn't answer. What's one way? And this is gonna, it's on the call. I mean, it's probably like a repeating thing every speaker we get. It's question over and over again. It's just I'm trying to collect different techniques and opinions here. How do you overcome that? I mean, it's the lack of response via text, lack of response via email, lack of response from phone calls. Barry Jenkins, I believe, mentioned to do call at various times, right? Hit them up in the morning, hit them up in the evening,
Yep.
in the afternoon, and just I think David, forget his last name, calling somebody 3 or 4 times and until they pick up. So what's the take? I mean, what's your take on that? People just not responding.
That's a fantastic question, Bob. I'm really glad you asked it. So I don't know what the other coaches have told you. If what I'm saying is going to completely contradict them, I told Karen she can mute me at any time. I also think I'll probably repeat a lot of the stuff that they said because they're making 7 figures a year in income, right? They're doing things that work really well. So it's obviously like important to learn from what they're doing. Here are the things that I train my sales team on. The exact process you guys have right now, this is literally what we do as a company to acquire new clients. So like what you're getting is not really any different from what I train my sales reps on, right? So here's what we do. First question I have for you, Bob, is from the time that the lead comes in, do you get a notification on your phone?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. From the time you get the notification, how long until the first phone call?
So normally, as soon as the notification was coming in, I was calling within like before that notification icon would like be selected away. I'd already be in the app. Like
Oh,
it come in,
perfect.
I call.
Saw it. That's the first thing. So for anyone here where there's like a delay, even if it's a 5 minute, 2 minute delay between the time you get the notification and the time that you call. Now, look, if it's been 30 minutes since you got the notification, that doesn't mean don't call, still call, right? But if you call them immediately, your chances of them picking up are a lot higher. Why? Because 90% of people click on ads when they're on their phone. So that means that they're actively on their phone using it and they're in what's called the buying pocket at that time, right? So that will be the perfect time to call. So that's the first easiest thing to take care of. You're already taking care of that. You're awesome. Second piece to it is I always double dial and I have my sales team double dial. So instead of calling once and then if they don't pick up, we end it, you always call a second time. Reason why is they don't have your phone number saved in their phone. They don't know who you are, right? Most people, when they get a phone call from a random number, either they have an app on their phone that sends it directly to voicemail, or they say like, oh, it's a spam person. I don't know who it is. I'm going to hang up, right? How many of you guys, if you get phone calls from random numbers, you always answer on the first time every time, right? Why? Because I mean, we're humans. Also, you guys are real estate agents. So like when you guys get those calls, like you are trained to answer. Think of it like this. A home seller, they're not trained that way, right? If they see a phone call from a random person, they're like, I don't know who this person is. So always double dial, right? They don't answer first time, hang up, call again. It will give off this idea. It's like, wait, this is important, right? And they'll be more likely to pick up the phone. So that's the second thing I give. Second thing is that after I double dial, I will always send a text if they haven't answered, right? As I make more attempts, I will occasionally switch up my strategy for how I connect with them. I always double dial. I never single dial. Always double dial, right? But let's say it's the third time I'm reaching out to them and I haven't gotten an answer. I pull up, you guys are going to love this. You ready for this? I pull up this website right here and I make a meme. I'm not even kidding you. This has worked many times. The sales team may have done it with some of you guys, right? You make a meme and you're like, hey, giving you a call, right? And you just shoot it over in a text. People will see that and they will be like, oh my word, what is this? And because there's like a shock factor there, they will either be more likely to pick up your next call or they will text you back. The response rate on memes is astronomical compared to normal text messages. I'm not going to claim to understand why, right? But I have had people ignore my phone calls for 3 months, right? They click on the ad, they fill out the application, they don't pick up a single phone call the entire time. I send a meme, they respond within 10 minutes. It is wild, right? So you use this website, imgflip.com/meme generator, and you just pick your meme template, right? Marked safe from being ghosted, right? Me waiting for, Johnny to answer the phone, right?
So,
And again,
sorry, when you say double dialing, you're doing that even on the follow-up calls as well?
yes. So every time I do reach out to a potential client, it is always double dial. They don't answer the first time. There are some people who train triple dials. I think that's excessive. That's how you make people hate you. Double dial is typically fine. If they don't answer on the second dial, they're probably not going to answer on the third. So does this make sense? Third thing I'm going to share real quick. Do you guys know the average in the industry of the number of touch points you need to have with a prospective client before they actually pick up the phone? Does anybody know that? 8. It is 8 times. So if you've tried 4 times and you're getting frustrated and you want to give up, pick that phone back up, right? Get back on the phone, call them again.
But can I make a comment to Bob, please?
Absolutely,
my background in New York, which is quite unique for there's a big rental market here, and I happen to have a big niche in Manhattan for that. When I put out an ad and I answer like instantly, and somebody doesn't pick up, it's not the problem is not on me. If they didn't pick up, they didn't pick up, and I'll keep doing it until I get it. So I don't make that why did pick up. I'm like, okay, let's keep going until you get that 8th call if you need it. Usually I have more clients and I go along. Also with regard to sales, exactly what you said. That meme thing, what some of the things that I do is I instead of the meme, I just do a video to put the name somewhere and say, hey, you know what? And I'm gonna give you a call in 15 minutes. Thank you so much for calling me. I want to give you some information as to the value of your property. I'm going to call you in 5 minutes. What happens is either they pick up or they text me back. Don't call me now. Call me in half an hour. And then suddenly you get them over the other side. So hopefully that helps, Bob.
Caesar, you were doing that. You're doing that with these Mescula leads, or you're just doing that with the leads? I just
started with Mescula, and yeah, I'm getting answers from Aaron as to attacking everybody's. I've got about 30 leads now. They're all, I'm going to attack them as if they were fresh, like they're today. But yes, or I used to, that's one of the things that I do that, and that usually opens the door.
I got you. I used to do that for buyer leads from Realtor.com. I still have that. So I shoot them a video. It's pre-recorded. So I just lead comes in, text the video out to them, saying I'm going to give them a call in about 15 minutes, and then either myself or somebody on my team will give them a call. But I didn't think of using it with the seller lead, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Because I also think if you think that you don't have that other person that's on the other side, you have zero contact with them, but now they see your face. Either they like you or they don't, whatever. You're a real person. You're talking to them. It's different than a phone call. That's how I look at it, and I just keep going. And now I'm going to do the Mescula, and I'll let you guys know within a month what happens. But I anticipate good things.
Yeah, Caesar, you are giving so much value, dude. You're amazing. I love you already. You're going to freaking crush it. This is super awesome. I know that we're a little bit over time. There's so much more we could talk about. We could talk about, even like Caesar, you mentioned this, and this is one thing I want to share as well. Just a tip and idea. If you say things like, I would love to X or whatever it is, it can actually lower your response rate. If you send instead things like, hey, I know you were looking for X, or hey, were you still interested in X? You shift the dynamic of the conversation from I'm chasing you to you are chasing me, right? You opted in. You said you wanted this. I'm not calling, this isn't a cold call, right? You said you wanted this, and you stay in that frame. What you'll create is you'll create them going after you as well. Small tips, small things like language. We can go deeper into that. We can go deeper into a lot of these things, but I want to be respectful of all of your guys' time. You guys have all been amazing. If you have further questions on it, if you drop it in the community, I occasionally check the Facebook. I also know that Victor and Emmanuel are absolute legends. And so if you reach out to them with any questions, they can build on the things we've talked about. And if you want more of this, beg your CSMs. And if there's enough demand, I'll pop back in for another guest thing. Any final death threats? Death threats? Was this helpful? Thumbs up if yes. Thumbs to the side if you're thinking of a death threat. All right, cool. Solid. You guys are all amazing. I love you all. Go crush it.
Thank you, Aaron. Let's go, guys. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Thank you for being here. And we'll have to have you back here very soon, Aaron.
You guys are all amazing. Go crush it. Let's call some leads, y'all.